Hello and welcome to Talk of Games match preview. Newcastle United against West Ham United, fourth from bottom against fourth from top. It couldn't be more different compared to the start of the season when Newcastle done us over on the opening day of the season. But anyway, Gonzo, can I get your thoughts on the Geordies, please?
Yeah, well, it's obviously been a disappointing season for them. I think they were probably expecting big things. As you say, first game of the season against us. Callum Wilson looked to be an exceptional signing. He may well turn out to be an exceptional signing for him. Of course, a proven Premier League goal scorer. It looked like Jeff Hendrick was a masterstroke, but maybe that's the only decent game he played. I'm not so sure. They're in the news again for several reasons. Firstly, is that the fans are trying to buy 1% of the club, which well, I don't know whether that'll be successful or whether it won't, but judging on the valuation of 360 million, there's going to be a struggle for them to get all of that money together to even get 1% of that. Also, they've been in the news, if you remember, the takeover, which was rumoured. It was by a lady called Amanda Staveley, who has tried to broker takeovers for Newcastle in the past, and she tried to do it for the Public Investment Fund, the PIF, which was a Saudi public investment fund. It eventually got turned down. It got rejected by the Premier League, who were worried about the association with the Saudi royal family. There was no separation between it, and it's since that in the latest news is that actually Crown Prince bin Salman actually approached Boris Johnson and asked Boris Johnson to intervene. This is all hearsay, of course, but what it's actually done is say, basically, the Premier League and now said, well, there you go, we told you there was an association between the Public Investment Fund and the Saudi royal family. It's all very, very complicated. They're still trying to push this takeover through. But I think in terms of the football, it's been a mess. I think the takeover's a mess. I think at the moment the club's just a mess, and it seems that the fans are just desperately trying to do what they can to get some form of ownership of it, even if it's just 1%.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. We were comparing ourselves to Newcastle and was competing as to who was the worst one club out of the pair of us. It was like, no, we've got the worst ones. No, we've got the worst ones. And when they were doing the polls about the owners in Premier League, Mike Ashley and our owners were 19th and 20th. It was just a case of which one finishes 20th. A year later, here we are near the top of the table. We seem to have sorted our stuff out in the background. West Ham are now looking like a reasonably well-run club. The management's doing really well and stuff. From the outside looking in, we look like a well-run club. But Newcastle still look like a shambles. They've got worse. They've somehow got worse. When it already looked really bad, it now looks really, really bad. Like you said, the takeover stuff is still going on. There's talk of that Mike Ashley's shutting down the mega store at Newcastle's ground and getting rid of all the staff because the new owners are going to want a different shop in there and stuff. And the whole thing's just make it up as you go along. It's almost like a Poundland mentality kind of budgets. They're just they've got a massive football club there, but they're acting as if they've got a market stall or something. The way they handle it is if they're dealing with £5 toy imports from overseas and stuff. It's just, I feel sorry for the fans. I really, really do feel sorry for Newcastle United fans, because I think they are a big, big club. I think massive fan base. I really like Newcastle fans. I like going to St James's Park as well. But I'm conflicted here because I cannot stand Steve Bruce. I hate Steve Bruce. So I'm really torn watching the struggles of Newcastle, because I think, their fans deserve a lot better. But then I look at Steve Bruce and I think their fans deserve a lot better. Earlier in the season, when the pundits were basically saying what we've been told a lot, the pundits were saying, well, what are you wanting, Newcastle fans? Bruce is keeping you in Premier League. What's the problem? And I 100% support what the fan base were saying there, which is we don't want this crap football. We don't want it. We don't care about 17th in the league, 16th. We've got to go down to get a decent manager and play some decent football, and so be it. But we don't want to watch that every week, and I've got complete sympathy for them. Do you think they will get relegated? It looks like last weekend was a massive swing for them. Fulham getting beat by Wolves, and then Newcastle going on to beat Burnley as well.
I don't. Just on Steve Bruce and the fans. I got some sympathy with the fans because everybody was telling us be careful what you wish for when we wanted Sam Allardyce to go. So, and it was a lot of people outside looking in, particularly look on Match of the Day and Alan Shearer at the time. I think at the time maybe they'd Pardew, but he was saying be careful what you wish for. But he wanted Pardew out or something like that. Maybe I remember it slightly incorrectly. But I also got sympathy for Steve Bruce actually, because he is a Geordie. And it would have been his dream job, to manage Newcastle. So, it'd be I'd imagine that's quite hard for him, being a Geordie. He probably always imagined he would manage them, and he probably never really imagined that if he did go back to where he was born, that actually the fans would probably turn against him. That must be quite nasty to be unpopular with your own kin, really, in that sense. But it is bad in terms of relegation. Their form actually ain't that bad. They drew with Tottenham. Obviously, they got the win against Burnley. I think they had another. I think they've had quite a few draws. So I think they've got 3 or 4 draws in the last few games. They've had a win. They've had a couple of defeats. The form doesn't look quite bad enough for them to get relegated. And of course, they've got a couple of big players back for them, and that's really what it's all about for Newcastle, and it was all about for Mike Ashley as well, because he is a funny one, because he's done 3 or 4 games with a Newcastle shirt on, been to the pub with the Toon fans once, but then he just doesn't go back. So it's almost he almost feigns interest and feigns support. Of course, he's not a supporter of them, so if he was, he'd be there for every game, which he's not. So he clearly just wants to get rid of it at the top price possible, and that's all about Standard Premier League, and I think they will.
Yeah, I think they might as well. I when we did in the last preview, I said to you, I think they'll go down. I said, I think Fulham will catch them. And that was quite a while ago. And a few people said, nah, I think you're well wrong there. And it was getting to the point where they looked like they were heading to the drop. I thought, I'm going to be right here. But they seem to have just got... That last weekend seems quite pivotal. They're still not out of it. They're still not out of it. All it takes, as we know, being in this situation many times, and we're in the same situation just at the end table now, all it takes is one bad result for you, one good result for your rivals on the same weekend, and suddenly the table looks a hell of a lot different. But the thing with Steve Bruce, though, is it's almost like, I guess it's what you could say about our owners sometimes, that is, if you are a Newcastle fan, you have the best interests of the club at heart, then you almost need to resign a little bit, because you're not doing well enough there. Do you think, as a Newcastle fan, just scraping into the Premier League is good enough for a club that size? The answer's it has to be no, it has to be, and therefore you're responsible for that. Perhaps he does think he's doing a good enough job, but it's not even like they're playing. There's a difference between them and Brighton. Brighton play pretty football, they're just not getting the results. Newcastle are playing horrendous football and getting horrendous results. It's not, you've got to do one or the other, really, and he's doing neither. I haven't watched them the last couple of weeks. I saw the first half against Burnley, then our game was on, so we had the build-up show, so I missed the second half. But that first half, it was a tough watch for both sides, really. But plenty of times I've watched Newcastle this season, it's hard to watch. They're just not very good at all, barely get out the half. They played Brighton a couple of weeks ago. They went 1-0 down just before the break. Steve Bruce just lost the plot. He just took off his defenders and put on attackers. Brighton were just running through them. It finished 3-0. It could have finished 6-0. The Newcastle players looked like they just didn't care in the end. There was no tackles going in or nothing. And it frustrates me, because I think they've got massive potential, and it's just hindered massively by the manager upwards at that club at the minute. It's just not good enough. But what's their plan for next season then? Obviously it's pending takeover, but assuming this takeover doesn't happen, is it just a case of staying in the Premier League until Mike Ashley decides he's going to do something with the club?
Well, Mike Ashley won't do something with the club. I mean, it's... Look, Mike Ashley's got a business to run. That business to run isn't Newcastle United. It's not what he's running. His business is Sports Direct, and there's a lot of businesses that haven't come through COVID. He's managed to keep on trading because he has an online presence, and now he's going to be hoping that the high street is going to open and sort of bounce back. That's going to be his focus. That's what's made him rich. He doesn't want to be the owner of Newcastle United. He probably looks back and totally regrets buying it. Probably seemed like a good idea at the time, but he didn't. Look, he wasn't kicking a ball around the Metro Centre as a young lad, dreaming of donning the Magpies shirt, was he? Let's be perfectly honest with you. So it can't be a dream of his. I can't imagine that he'll put any money in. I think the valuation of any club has to be lower at the moment, and even if the Saudi investment fund still intended on trying to buy it, they're going to be haggling and trying to get it for lesser price anyway. I just think he's tried to sell it a number of times, and they keep failing. I just now is probably not the time to sell a Premier League club. Ironically enough, now may well be the time to buy a Premier League club, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure the two of them will match up next season. They would have to survive again. I'm sorry, it is that. But the thing is, they do. You're going to speak about the players in a second. They do have some good players there. But I do agree with what you were saying about Steve Bruce in terms of the football and the football he's playing, because when I looked at that game, actually Burnley had twice as many shots as Newcastle, had more possession, had better passing. That's Burnley. That's not what Burnley don't have more possession than anyone. They have more shots than anyone, So for that to happen, it's clearly they've got problems there on the playing field as well as off the field.
Unless they do some big transfers and some good transfers, effective transfers, they've got to be one of the favourites for the drop next season. If they keep Steve Bruce, I hope for Newcastle fans he's gone and or the club get taken over, they can go in a different direction. But I guess what they can do is go back and start the video. We were in not too dissimilar position to Newcastle 12 months ago. We've stayed up and now we're having a fantastic season. So it can be turned around very, very quickly. It can be turned around just like that. But when you look at Newcastle, you don't really see the ingredients there to do that. Because you say they've got a few good players. I think that's it. The problem though, there's only a few. You look at the rest of the team, and we'll talk about the players we admire in a minute, because we always do. And we don't have to say players you don't like. But that back three that played last week against Burnley, Drummond, Clark and Fernandes, that's not a good back three. Jacob Murphy, right wing back, Matt Ritchie, left wing.
Weird, isn't it?
That's a championship.
They're attacking players playing at wing.
Yeah, that's a championship back five though. That is a champion.
Yes.
I think Fernandes is good. I think he's had a good season. But the other four, while Drummond's done well, I think it was Pardew that told him he would never make it, and he's gone on to make however many appearances for Newcastle. It's proved him wrong. But he's an average, at best, he's an average Premier League defender. You look in the midfield and Shelby's just not quite what he used to be. Sean Longstaff hasn't hit the heights and everything just seems disappointing at the minute. Anyway, players you admire. I know one of the ones you're going to pick.
Well, Almiron.
No, I knew you'd pick both of them, but it's definitely...
Yeah. I mean, Almiron's not really kicked on, but he does seem to play well against us, it has to be said. That being said, he may not play against us because it may well be Saint-Maximin takes his place there. And as you know, his son, Saint-Maximin, I wanted him at West Ham. What was it, before we brought in Felipe Anderson, wasn't it? So, I mean, look, good player. Shelby is on his day. Good player. Joe Linton, I don't particularly overly rate him, but he started scoring a couple of goals. I actually quite like Dwight Gale, funnily enough, but not wide. I do think he's a poacher. He's a fox in the box, as Arsene Wenger used to say about goal poachers. So he is that. Obviously, Callum Wilson. This is really the issue for West Ham, is that Newcastle do have players that play well against West Ham. But they're not teaming. Obviously, Lascelles is a good player. Didn't play against Burnley. They've got some half decent players. Longstaff should be better than he is, but you do get the impression that because, I mean, you look at West Ham and you look at David Moyes has made a lot of players better. David Moyes has reinvigorated Aaron Cresswell's career, which looked to be stagnating and looked to be on the way down. He's got the best out of Angelo Bonner. He has metamorphosized Michail Antonio. The list goes on. He is clearly getting the very best out of players. Jesse Lingard is playing the best of his career under David Moyes. I just wonder if these players, like Shelby, like Almiron, like Longstaff, are having the opposite effect because of, maybe the Steve Bruce factor and the bad feet. You hear that there's a lovely atmosphere at West Ham. Maybe there's just a bad atmosphere at Newcastle, and they're suffering and unable to express themselves on the pitch as a result.
I've been somewhat disappointed by Jamal Lewis. Thought he was probably one of the captures of the summer a year ago. He's done okay. He's not kicked on as much as I thought. I think two of their best players this season for me is both goalkeepers, and I think that tells the story of Newcastle United. I think Darlow and Dubravka have had fantastic seasons. Darlow's possibly just as good as a backup goalkeeper to any in the Premier League, bar Man United possibly. He's a fantastic goalie to have on the bench. I think Joelinton should be playing wide. I don't like him as a number 9. I think I like him in the wide positions, but that's Almiron in the St. Maximin's position, so it's quite difficult. I think Joe Willock was a clever signing for them in January. He's added that energy in the centre midfield from them when they need it. I think Jeff Hendrick looked good on paper, but he's just bang average. That's what he is. He's a grafter. The fact that you're pinching players from Burnley would suggest that that's what your team's going to be for the season. You're going to be trying to grind your way to safety, if you like. So Not ideal from Newcastle United. Anyway, that's enough about Newcastle United. We're going to talk about our team, West Ham, now. The team news is bad for Aaron Creswell. He looks to be out for up to 3 weeks. But the good news for Mark Noble is he's expected to be okay. He's expected to be fit for the game on Saturday against Newcastle, which, let's be honest, Gonzo, is huge news, and that's something we expected to be saying a few weeks ago.
No, I guess not. But he had a really good performance in the last game. He was pretty good the game before that as well. This is a massive time for Mark Noble. Of course, that was his 400th Premier League appearance, and it just goes to show you don't have to play every game. There is a massive value to being a squad player, which is what he is now, and clearly he's providing the leadership on the training ground, and he is still the club captain in every sense of the word. But for him to come back into the team and cover for such an excellent player as Declan Rice, and to cover well, is really important. And he's going to have to do so for another couple of games at least until Declan can get back. So yeah, massive news there. Yeah,
he's been contender for man of match in the last 2 games as well, and I'm pleased he's fit for this one, because I don't know what we would do without him really. You look at their team and then all of a sudden you're starting to shift players that's in the starting 11 into his position, and you've got to fill that guy's position. Like, you move Fornals in there, that's okay, but then you've now got to fill Fornals' role, which makes it difficult. So it's a relief that he's available for Saturday. I think fantastic news for us. But the one player that isn't available is Aaron Creswell, so a forced change. I assume would you stick with the same formation, which is 3 at the back, or would you go to a flat back 4 and take Masuaku into the left back role?
No, I think I'll stick with 3 at the back for this one. I'd obviously draft Bonner in, who I do believe is fit, and that's so we lose something, but we also gain something. And I think probably more important now is us shutting up shop at the back. I do think we can score goals, even without Aaron Creswell. We'll be able to score goals, but he has been such a massive creative influence this season. It's not ideal, but we can fill it, and David Moyes will know this, the coaching staff will know this, and they'll have been working at this during the week. So it's not like Angelo Bonner doesn't know how to go in and play at left centre half. He's left-footed, he's an experienced player, and an outstanding player for us. So yeah, I'd just draft him in and keep the same formation, mate.
Yeah, as mentioned in a cup of tea last night, Gonzo, I would change it. I think we'd miss Aaron Creswell's forward runs far too much from this. I don't like the idea of having 3 centre-backs at centre-backs, which sounds mental to say out loud. But I do think when you play like a flat 3 at the back, you need someone that's got the ability to take out a defence. I know a few people will point to Diop because he has done it on occasions, but I've also seen Diop run out of defence and lose it 10-15 yards out of position, and that concerns me a lot. If anything, I'd rather not have emphasis on Diop being the one that makes the runs. I'd rather he just does what he has done in the last few weeks, which is sit back and play almost a defensive 2 at times to allow Creswell to go forward. So with that in mind, as I said in a cup of tea, I would draft in Soufal and put him into the right centre-back role. Fredericks, right wing back, who I think has played really well this season. He's not had a bad game. I don't think Fredericks had a bad game. So that also gives us pace. With St. Maximin possibly coming down their left-hand side, that gives Fredericks a chance to catch him, if you like. Because I think what Rashford and someone else last week, Traore, again, what they did was they showed teams how you can attack Soufal, and that is you just knock it past him and run. He's not the fastest, so you've got to play faster than him, have a foot race with him. And Newcastle have arguably 2 players with Almiron as well, 2 players that are faster than Soufal, so if they get into a foot race with him, they might win. So I'd almost move Soufal back a little bit, so he's got a 10-yard head start, and put Fredericks in the foot race against him. But I would also still bring in Ogbonna, Gonzo. That's what I didn't say last night, and I would drop Craig Dawson for this one. And it's a bit harsh, but I don't think he's been in the best of form, and I think he's slow. And I think the front 3 of Newcastle, which could be Almiron, St. Maximin and Joelinton, who have all got a bit of pace about them, that would concern me. I think put Ogbonna into the middle of the back 3 with Diop to the left. So again, if St. Maximin comes down that side, it's fine. We've got Diop there. He's the quicker of the 3 centre-backs. Because that's their only threat. It's almost like you nullify Newcastle's pace on the counter-attack. You kind of stop their team completely, really. It sounds harsh, but I don't really expect them to create much unless it's relying on pace. And we've seen it at West Ham. We've seen them at West Ham. Remember, we played Zabaleta against St. Maximin. Everyone knew not to do it, but Pellegrini done it, and he just roasted him for 90 minutes. And I just worry that... So that's how I would switch up. I would make a few changes in that back line, because we've conceded 7 goals in the last 3 games, so it's not good. It's not like they've been keeping clean sheets of that. So I think changes are possibly needed there, and I think you're right. The Bonner coming back in does give us that defensive protection, but I do think we will lack something massively going forward, and it does put a lot more emphasis on Sufal and Masuaku in particular to create something, which they should do. They've been posting good number and getting assists in that, but it's just a bit, I don't want to rely on just them. Would you make any other changes though, or does it just pick itself?
Yeah, I think so. For me, it does. You can't swap Bowen out after that performance. Noble we've discussed. Souček, these are all people that have to play, and I do think, as you know, as I said it in the previous games, Masuaku is integral to us going forward now. And I know he made some defensive errors, but I would like to think that with Ogbonna there, that's gonna be massively lessened, let's say. I also think there was some fatigue there, which hopefully won't happen. But he's not there for his defence. I like the way he's carrying the ball forward. Lingard as well. And I think you can't drop Fornals because he's put in such a massive shift there and probably allows the others to play. Although I would like to see a little bit more quality from El Fornicador in this particular game. I'd like to see, some clever passes and assist or something like that. But yeah, by and large, the team has to play the same. I just hope remain the same. I just hope the composition of the bench is slightly better with the maybe the inclusion of Lanzini and stuff like that. So we do have a midfield option.
And possibly Yarmolenko on the bench as well, ahead of Mipo or Debeko. So there might be 2 more senior players on the bench compared to last game. I think Fornals in the 10 could be important for this one, because while Newcastle have a threat on the counter-attack, you need to get the ball to them. It's all very well having a fast guy, but you can't get the ball to him. It's a bit useless, isn't it? But that guy's Jonjo Shelvey. He's the playmaker. So Fornals in the 10 almost allows us to man-mark him to some extent. You stop Jonjo Shelvey playing the balls around, stop him pinging those 30, 40-yard passes and something like that, because not every team has a workaholic in an attacking position, so that defensive midfielder can actually get the ball and get his head up and stuff. So Fornals in there could annoy Newcastle essentially when they're trying to get the ball to Shelvey to distribute it. We've got a little terror in there snapping away at him, and I don't think they'll fancy it. Are you nervous for this one?
No, not really. Not for this one. No, this is. I think we should win this one, and I think we are a much better team than Newcastle. The league table doesn't lie. I think there's a little bit of revenge needed for the first game in the season as well, and we have to believe we're not up there as a fluke now. After all these games, we are there on merit, and if we honestly want to achieve and go through the door's open, we've got to walk through it, and if that's what we're going to do, we have to beat a team like Newcastle and then worry about the nerves for the next game against Chelsea.
I'm nervous. I'm still confident, but I am nervous just because we've done the hard bit, which is beating Leicester, beating Wolves. We've done the hard ones. On paper, we've done the hard games as well. This is the easiest. Well, it is. It's the easiest fixture remaining this season, isn't it? Because everyone else that we play is above Newcastle in the league. So on paper, this is the easiest fixture it gets. But I'm just a bit nervous because the old West Ham would be to stuff this up. What does give me hope, though? Do you know how many games it's been since West Ham lost their side in the bottom half of the table?
No.
22.
Wow.
22 games.
That's impressive.
22 games since West Ham lost a side in the bottom half of the Premier League when we faced them. I don't know who it was.
It's very un-West Ham.
So that gives me even more confidence and stuff. And I think the more confident I get, the more nervous I get because I'm feeling confident. I'm like, no, I don't like this feeling. I preferred the Leicester one when I was quite laid back and I was like, it's not the be all and end all. This fixture does feel a bit like the be all and end all. We win, we stay fourth, but we can't get overtaken. We stay fourth. We take advantage of the likes of Leicester playing in the FA Cup this weekend as well. So we will actually go third if we win. We will leapfrog Leicester and go to third in the Premier League, which would just be crazy.
That would be amazing. We've got 6 games to go.
We are third. I don't care if teams have got a game out. We go third. It's just a bonkers feeling, but. I don't know. I mean, Newcastle winning last weekend as well. I think that I don't know if it helps us or not. I think you could argue it does because they've now got a bit of breathing space. You could argue it doesn't because then it means a point's enough for them. Whereas last weekend, if they lost last weekend, they might have felt that a point wouldn't be enough this one. So it's sort of, I can see both sides of it. But we've got 7 cup finals, Gonzo. I mean, if we win this, does your confidence of Champions League at the end of the season increase, or are you still, because you're quite reserved, I'm waiting until Chelsea,
I am still that, mate, really. I think this is an important game, and this is a different game because in many respects both Wolves and Leicester played into our hands, and I said this just before the Leicester game in the build-up. It may well. I said, didn't I? I changed my opinion before the game. I said, actually, I think we win this. I think play into our hands. This is not going to play into our hands. They are going to sit back, and we're going to have to break them down. So we're going to need those set pieces again. We're going to need some crosses. We're going to need a long-range curled shot from Jesse Lingard or a late run into the box from Souček. But we can do that. We are capable of that. It is an interesting game, though. But I think I want us to win. I need us to win. I expect us to win. And for that reason, I'm still waiting until Chelsea. If we get to Chelsea, and we'll discuss that then I'll say we're on.
Yeah, I think you can't take it one game at a time, really, can't you? And I think the problem is it feels like we not turn up and win against Newcastle. It does feel like it's almost like an expectation now that we will beat Newcastle. We are almost too good to not beat Newcastle. And I'm trying to put my sort of hatred to Steve Bruce one side, because I look at Newcastle and I think they're crap. They're just not good. They're not a good team. They don't have a good manager. They don't have a good team. Yes, I know they've got a couple of players just back from injury, but they're just back from injury. That's the thing. We've seen our players come just back from injury, and it takes a while to get up to speed. So I'm not that fussed about it. And with the greatest of respect, I know Callum Wilson can be a good striker. St. Maximin can be a good winger in that. But at the same, I look at it and I think, but then that's two players, we've got more than two players in our team that's going to cause some problems and stuff, and I just think you can stop their two players, you stop Newcastle. I think this is probably the most confident I've been all season. I hate to say it, and I know it might come back and haunt us and stuff, but like I said to you, I'm no longer afraid to make bold predictions about West Ham anymore, because this whole jinxing thing, this whole West Ham's gone. 22 games since we last got beaten by a team in the bottom half of the table. And when I read that stat, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't like, wow, really? I thought, wow, that's a good figure. But I didn't think, what, really?
You didn't think, surely not? Yeah.
No, it felt normal. It's probably right, actually. It's probably right. Because we know Moyes struggles against the top 6, Sky Sports top 6, but against the other 13, that's his bread and butter games. That's the games he's getting us wins from. And that's why we are 4th, because it's those are the ones that we're winning. So with that in mind, I am very confident going into this one. So can I get your final thoughts, if you have any, plus your score prediction, please?
Yeah, just important game. Same again, I keep saying it and we keep doing it, so it's not a criticism. It's start fast. We do start fast. Let's get an early goal, and if we do so, then I think we're on for a comfortable win, 3-0 or 3-1, something like that.
I'm going to, because I've seen what they've done against Brighton, which was collapse, and I've seen the way that we play on the counter-attack and stuff, I just hope that we don't take our foot off the gas in the second half. If we go in ahead, I hope we come out and continue to attack. The last 3 games we've gone in ahead with 3 goals scored. In the second half we've sat back completely and just like, what you got? And the problem is, when you ask Leicester, Wolves and Arsenal what you got in attack, and they've got players like Aubameyang, and they've got players like Jamie Vardy and Iheanacho, they're probably going to score against you. But actually, when you sit back against Newcastle and say, what you got? And then they say, well, we've got this guy and this guy, but they need a bit of space, and you're in the space, so if you could come forward a little bit, then we can maybe score a goal. We're going to sit back and say, well, you're not having the room, what are you going to do? I think Newcastle's answer is going to be not a lot. So with that in mind, I think we're going to keep a clean sheet on Saturday. I'm going to say West Ham, I'm going to say Newcastle United 0, West Ham United 4.
Oh, blimey.
Honestly, I think we're going to spank them, Gonzo. I think from what I saw against Brighton, they just lost their minds and Brighton were just cutting through them. I think we're going to see a little bit of that about us. I think we're going to be ruthless. I wouldn't be surprised. Remember a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, I said to you, goal difference doesn't matter anymore. We were so far, we're actually starting to matter now. We've caught up a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if, given how close the league table is and how close goal difference is, I wouldn't be surprised if our team is looking at that, the management team that is looking at that and thinking, we could probably do 1 or 2 goals added onto our tally here, because it might just come down to goal difference at the end of the season. And how sick would you feel?
Oh,
if you finish,
don't say it.
If you finish 5th, equal points with the team above you, and you miss out by 2 goals or something, because then you will look at Leicester and Wolves and think, we were 3-0 up. We should have. We only conceded 1 instead of 2. I think this weekend, if we're 3-0 up, I can see Moyes going for the throat. I wouldn't be surprised to see Fernandez off and Ben Rama on as the first substitution, just to keep on going and trying to get that goal. Yeah, 4-0 West Ham. I'm going for it. That's the biggest prediction I think I've ever done in 6 years of Hammers Chat. And I don't know if that's a...
not non-cup prediction.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know if that's more of a compliment to West Ham or an insult to Newcastle, or a bit of both, really. I don't know what a reflection it is, but anyway. Shall we leave it there, my friend?
Yeah, good stuff, mate. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the game.
A 12:30 kick-off on Saturday afternoon means we are live at 11:25. If you wish to join us for the build-up show, hopefully we'll win one of you that join us live a little bit of money. I know what's going in the bet that weekend. That's goal scores for West Ham. But join us live then. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. And we'll see you on Saturday morning.